Hi everyone, I'm James Wilstrop and I am here with the PSA Foundation, and I'm here with Todd Harrity, who is one of the greatest American squash players of all time and a PSA Wellness Ambassador.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about him today, aren't we, Todd? What, first of all, how did your relationship with squash begin as a young person?
Well, I grew up outside Philadelphia, and I was fortunate to belong to a squash club, the Marion Cricket Club. And my parents did play squash, not at a super high level, but I think I was just taken to it at a very young age. My mom used to say that when she would go to the club and play, she could just put me on a side court and I would just hit the ball by myself, and it was amazing how long I could just stay entertained.
So if we go back to April 2018, you released a statement or a piece of writing on your Twitter. I believe it was Twitter, correct? Or social media,
it was
anyway.
Actually everything, yeah.
Yeah, you just put it out there.
Instagram, yeah.
Okay, and which I'm going to read it out now. So I'll just go from the beginning. To everyone I know and all who know me, I have something that I'm finally ready to get off my chest. I am gay, and I'm ready to live my life as an openly gay man. I have decided to come out because I am convinced that having everyone know this about me is the only way I can truly be content. I also think that it's what's best for everyone around me, so that we can more fully understand each other. To the people that I have already told, thank you. I was not ready to have everyone know this about me. I appreciate you keeping my secret. To the pro squash community, we are a diverse group of different nationalities, ethnicities and faiths. I don't know how this will be received by everyone, but I've been dealing with this for a long time. This is what's necessary for me to be myself and best enjoy the rest of my time on the circuit and beyond. Lastly, I am not famous, but if I can be a source of inspiration to any others in a similar situation, I am pleased. This has not been easy for me. It has taken me a long time to accept myself as I am, but now I have, and I'm ready to put all of this behind me and move on with my life. Todd Harrity. So, when we knew we were going to do this, it was, part of me is thinking, and I've sort of mentioned it to one or two people, and the reaction is often like, okay, well, why, or what do we need to talk about this for? It's quite interesting, the reactions that I've got, and I'm sometimes thinking about that myself, like, this is ridiculous, almost. But obviously, it is a very rare thing, isn't it? Certainly for a sportsman to do this. And can you just tell me about why you felt, I mean, you've sort of mentioned things in that statement, but what was it that was the overriding feeling about having to make that statement publicly, and did you think about keeping it, just not doing that and keeping it just as it was, and then if things came out, it came out, or was it always you needed to get it out?
Well, there were a lot of reasons. I mean, for one, I think I was just finally ready, and I thought that I had been thinking about it, and I thought it was what I needed to do to just finally put the issue behind me and move on with my life. And I thought that it would be a way of just finally moving past it. I mean, coming out was a long process that happened in stages. So at first it was, I just had one friend that knew, and then a couple friends, and I mean, by that time, my family knew, my close friends knew. I was living in Bristol. That was my training base, and those players and everyone there knew. But then I would travel and go to a tournament and go back in the closet again, or I'd be sitting with players and a question would come up, who are you seeing, or when's the last time you're like, what's going on? And then I would lie or deflect or do, I had my strategies for like avoiding the topic. And there was one moment really in Macau where it kind of happened earlier that year, and I was just like, I'm 27 years old and I don't want to deal with this anymore. Whether I'm in Bristol, whether I'm traveling, I just, I don't want to have that feeling of anxiety of like, oh, I don't want to discuss this. And I thought this would just, it's definitely against my nature, but would finally just put it to rest and allow me to move on. I think definitely in this profession and like in the sports world, it is kind of uncommon. And there are some that have come out, but it is uncommon, especially on the men's side. And especially for athletes that are still actively playing. Some of them that had come out, many of them had come out after their careers competing were finished. But yeah, that was, I guess, another reason why I felt it was necessary to do. I don't know, it was never really part of me or my character to have a lot of bravado or outward aggression. It just wasn't natural to me, and I always feel like I'm just playing my best when I'm true to myself and just kind of what comes natural to me. And yeah, I don't know, I had one coach, I remember having this conversation with one coach about this, and he sort of said, it's fine if you're not that way. You want people to be, they're going to be intimidated by you for your squash and what you can do on the court. And I mean, that's what you want people to respect. And I liked that. And so I didn't really, having a lot of aggression or bravado wasn't something that was, normal for me.
And so what about since all that then? How was the reaction? Because that's quite interesting, isn't it? I mean, this sport is all about different cultures, different countries. The way people in those countries think is very different. We've heard a lot about Qatar recently with the soccer and football, and there's controversy there. How were there any issues? How did people respond?
No, I had so many fears and worries. I was, for so long, was just so afraid of how people would react, and definitely the Egyptian contingent on the tour was something I was thinking about. It's a very Muslim country, and I didn't know what was going to happen. But I thought that I wouldn't be able to go to Egypt, perhaps, or Pakistan and compete. And I was actually, at the time, I was like, that's fine. I'd rather just have this out there and I can be myself, and that freedom is worth me not going somewhere to compete. I'm fine with it. But then, everyone was fine. Even my Egyptian friends were fine and supportive. Even, I don't know, maybe some people felt they couldn't support it publicly, but everyone did privately. And then, I ended up going and living in Cairo for almost 2 years, and it was an amazing experience. I loved it, and the culture, and no one really treated me differently. I didn't lose any friends as a result of this. Everyone who was my friend before was still my friend after. So I think all of my fears and worries when it came to the squash community were unfounded and blown out of proportion inside my head.
So what, if you were going back now, would you say to yourself in certain points? Would you have done things differently? Is it, I don't know, what would you say to 18-year-old you?
I think definitely what helped me at university. I think I would say that reach out and get help when you need it. I think getting help is a sign of strength, actually, reaching out. And what really helped me in university was, you know, kind of going through it all. And I was lucky to be in a place that had great resources that I could go to. And there was the LGBT center at there. And I remember I, you know, finally got the courage to email them, and there was a woman, Debbie, who was running it, and just said, you know, I'm a student here, and I'm struggling. I have something I want to talk to you about. And she replied immediately, and when we did finally meet, from then on, she became a big part of my university experience. She was so patient with me, because at the time I was so paranoid of anyone knowing. I was just like worried about how friends, family, everyone would react. How things would change, if I'd be treated differently, if I could still be on the squash team, and all this stuff.
Did you really think that like could be in jeopardy?
I did. I mean, it's funny now. I wouldn't think that at all now, on the other side of all this. But at the time, yeah, I was terrified of everything. But then having that place to go to, and I could talk to her about it, and she had been through the whole process herself. She had such good, sound advice, and it was funny because when we first started meeting, of course, I didn't want to be seen anywhere near the LGBT center, and I was also worried about being seen with her because maybe people might know her role on campus, what she did, and so she was always meeting with me at times and places on campus that were, you know, inconspicuous. I knew it was unlikely that I'd run into anyone I knew, and she would give me DVDs or books to read or little articles about athletes, about, you know, anything to kind of get me more educated and used to the idea of being gay and everything. And there were even times while we were speaking and she'd say, well, I have something for you. Do you want to, like, come grab it? And I would say, yes, but I'm not going to your office, so you go and grab it and I'll wait for you here. And I mean, this was the way it was in the early stages. And then over time, she helped convince me that it actually was important to tell a friend. She was happy to meet with me as long as I wanted, but it was good to have at least just start with one friend that knows, and that's one person who knows, and you can, you know, go to them. And so I had to think about a friend who I could trust to keep it confidential and everything. And then, so there was that, and then step by step, it was, I think, like, being comfortable in my own skin was a long journey.
So obviously, just to finish up, Todd, you know, we've talked about an awful lot, and I know you've mentioned some things so far about how you thought it was best to go about helping yourself, but if you were to tell someone now who's going through what you went through, what if you can kind of encapsulate it, would there be certain things or resources or sort of, you know, what would you advise them to do?
I think the biggest lesson for me through all this was reach out and get help if you need it. If you're in a tough spot and you feel you need help, reach out and get help, because there are those resources available. I mean, when I was in university, I like having a counselor and having Debbie, and it totally saved me. I think no matter what you're dealing with, there's places to get help. And I know there's Sporting Chance, which is the counseling service with the PSA. It's all provided. Squash can be brutal, and I think players should definitely utilize that if, for anything. Just want to talk about something or anything. In terms of the whole coming out thing and that, I know for me in my mind I was playing out the worst possible scenario, losing friends and kind of being a pariah, or people aren't gonna want to hang out with me anymore. And actually, I think everyone that goes through this finds that people are so much more. It always goes much better than you thought that it would, and most people really are supportive, and everyone's fine. And I think for me, like talking to my younger self, just all the things that I was worried about, and none of them were true. And so I think that would be one message I'd want to send. Just it's going to be okay, and I think the world is becoming more open these days, and it's.
All right, Todd. Thank you for sharing everything with us.
Thank you so much.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you.